Hi, I'm Dr. Demeter and I'm based at Magical Farm in Tasmania. And I'm here with Dr. Alek Pelman, and he's a small scale farmer and a philosopher. And he's also a research fellow and assistant professor at the Israel Institute of Technology. Thanks for joining me, Alek.
Thank you
Um,
for having me. That's
I wanted
great
to,
being here on your show, the
great,
podcast.
thanks. Um, Thank you. Um, So yeah, it's great that you are actually the first episode of and first series one, episode one of the podcast, and I was fascinated with the work that you do, that you basically grow your own food on a 750 square meter plot, and I was just wondering why. Why do you do that?
Well, it's hard to remember. It's been a while since I've started it. It's been
Mm.
going on for about 13 years now. Um,
Mhm.
so, but it's a very I had this dream for a long time, um, and
Mm.
at first it started with the ambition to be independent and not rely on anyone else and being able to provide for myself. I didn't do much about it. I guess many people share this dream, or at least part of it. But then I guess this the growing environmental awareness made me actually do something about it. That I realized that all the harm I'm inflicting on the environment just by living normally, by being a normal person, because we are nowadays connected to a system that's has many negative implications on nature
Mm.
and on in the environment on one another, on social matters as well. And I felt like
Mm.
it became more and more difficult for me to partake in this system. So I was looking for ways
Mm.
to untie my ties with it and try to do things the way I believe they should be done in a less harmful way. So I guess that's what actually made
Mm.
me make the effort and start this project.
Mm.
So that was the reason. Mainly
Yeah,
environmental.
so on that, because you say you are a philosopher, of course you must have like inspirational philosophers that kind of have supported you to see how we are designed into this system that designs us. So, who are those philosophers, or who is a particular philosopher that you would maybe recommend for the listeners of this podcast to have a read of? I'm interested too.
Um, yeah, I guess it's not very surprising. I mean, the usual suspects. Henry David Thoreau was a great inspiration in my
Mhm.
youth when I was. It's not a compulsory reading in Israel. It's not like in the United States that I think people
Mm.
should read it in high school. But I came across it and it was very influential. I think John Muir is a great inspiration as well. The early environmentalists, Gary Snyder, is
Mhm.
also a source of um, inspiration and motivation. And I am maybe someone who is closer to what I'm doing is Masanobu Fukuoka with his classic book, The One Straw Revolution, is also a great book, I think. To me, uh, it moved me a lot and made me think about those issues. Yeah, so
Mm.
those type of thinkers. Also, early classical thinkers like Diogenes, who had nothing to do with the environment, but just this.
Mm.
There's also I was concentrating on in the environmental issues when I answered your question, but there's also a matter of lifestyle. How do you see your life? What do you want to do when you wake up in the morning? And the simplifying, for the simple life, maybe even some sort of attraction to frugality, to simplify
Mm,
and do things minimal. All those things are also. I'm also attracted to it. I was also very attracted to it,
mm,
and still am. And some of the thinkers that I was influenced by are those who put more stress on this type of this aspect of life more than the
mm.
environmental aspect.
Yeah, beautiful.
Luckily, they go very well together. So,
Yeah,
being simple is also environmental.
environmental, exactly. So, yeah, really, really insightful. And it's just to me really like unique. And that's funny that, 750 square meters of land and the amount that I like the amount of propaganda really that you come across that basically is saying that no, it's not possible to live self-sufficiently. But you've definitely proved that wrong. And so, how do you do it?
Well, it's very much a matter of choice of a diet. It really influences. It has such a great impact on the environment and on the size of the plot and on the time it takes. It's all a matter of what you decide to feed on, to feed yourself with, because the simplest aspect of it is just the decision, the choice between plant-based diet or animal-based diet. That's a very big difference in terms of your time investment and the land occupation, because if you decide to rely heavily on animal-based diet, you should feed your animals. So in terms of calorie intake, they will take so much of the calories that you could use yourself by feeding them the
Mm,
plants, and then they leave
yeah.
very little of it for you to feed on. So to um, as in terms of nutrients, so it's very inefficient. Like it's a economically, it's a very bad deal. You would never, let someone have 100% of your assets and get only 5% out of it and let them take that 95%. But that's what animals do. Um,
Mm,
so my first choice was to go for a plant-based diet. That saved me a lot of
mhm,
land and effort, because it's, the two are very tightly linked. If you have a lot of land that you need to cultivate, that's a lot of time investment. So the less land you cultivate, the
mm,
less time you have to invest in it. So that was the
mhm,
first thing. And the second thing is, I think the main reason for this small plot is the decision to grow. We call it intercropping. So you have several crops on the same piece of land, using the same piece of land for several crops that grow one on top of the other. So you grow crops underneath the trees. If you have trees and you grow underneath, then
mm,
you make a double use of the same plot, as opposed to industrial farming that will never do it. So if you have like olive trees and wheat in the industrial farming, they will be separate. So you'll have the trees will grow and all the land that underneath will not be used for growth. And the same with wheat, because you
mm,
need like a combine to harvest the wheat, so the trees will interfere, and it won't be very efficient. So in a large scale, they don't do it. And here I do it. I grow all the crops all the way to the tree trunks. And in that way, I save a
mhm,
lot of space. So I double the crops. And that makes it possible to grow so much food on so little land. I think these are the two main um, mm,
mm.
elements.
I watched a video of your farm and your work, and after the video, the first thing I did was I ordered beans. So I ordered lots of beans. um, so I highly recommend. There's videos online if you just Google Alek Pelman. There's a really great video that's pretty much gone viral, hasn't it? Like there's a million or so views on that now. Um,
Less, I
but
guess it's about
or some
600,000,
a
yes.
lot of people. Oh, okay, yeah, nice. So, yeah, like that was, and what you talk about with beans is it's very good for the soil as well, right? Like, it's a nitrogen fix for the soil,
Yeah.
and it's protein. So, yeah, and also, you refer like I love your reference to ancient culture it seems as though you've kind of done quite a lot of reading and research into not just sort of Middle Eastern cultures, but to Asian culture. Like you have you make miso. Um, so is that how to, like, in terms of like, okay, the growing part, which is one part of it, but then it's okay, adapting and its skills in terms of cooking and growing and preparing, and then storage and all of those matters. Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear about how you go about it and sort of what you describe. What is your diet, in a way? Like, how would you? What? Yeah.
Yeah, so firstly, I'm not a nutritionist myself, so I have to rely on what nutrition, how do you call those people in English? The nutritionists, yeah.
I
Um,
think a nutritionist, yeah.
yeah, so I have to rely on the professional nutritionists to tell me what's good for me. And as far as I'm told, you have to have your calories daily intake of calories. They should be in a certain proportion. So if we need, our calories come from three sources: for protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And those have to be in a right proportion. And I know this is very debatable and controversial issue, like what's the proportion and how much you need of each. But I'd say that the mainstream nutritional recommendation is that 50% of your calories should come from carbs, 30% from fat, and 20% from protein. So in this way, I will have to um, construct and design the diet that will provide me with this kind of elements and nutritional elements in the right proportion. And if I take it from
Mm-hmm.
plants, the main source of protein would be um, legumes, and the main source of carbs would be vegetables and cereals. And in terms of fat, normally some type of tree that's in the ancient times will be provide like nuts or olives or avocado will
Yeah.
provide the fats. In more modern times, we learn to extract oil from seeds as well. So we have nowadays the most common oils are soy oil and corn, maize oil, but this is
Mm-hmm.
a fairly new technology because
Mm.
it takes a lot of heavy machinery that wasn't available
Mm.
in older times, and it's debatable whether it's healthy or not. So in my case, it's
Yeah.
olives.
Yes.
And
So
the
stick
great
to the
thing
tree.
about relying on seeds like wheat and fava beans. So the legumes would be depending on each place in the world. In the Middle East, it would be chickpeas and fava beans and lentils. And in I don't know, Central America, of course, that would be other type of beans. And in Asia, it would be soybeans. So each place in the world, it will be different, but still, the formula is very
Mhm.
similar. Seeds um, and that are the main source of our calories. So cereals and beans and peas. And the great thing about relying on those is that they store very well and take very little space because they have a lot of nutritional content in them. So a lot of calories in a small that take up relatively small area, small space, storage space, as
Hmm.
opposed to say vegetables. So you wouldn't want to rely on vegetables as your main source of calorie because that would take a lot of space. And the reason we need to store them is that in each place in the world, normally they don't grow all year round. So they grow in a certain season and then you want to harvest them and keep them and store them. So storage is a very important consideration in how you design uh, your garden and your plots.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
that's the way I
kitchen
do it.
and I suppose pantry. Yeah,
Yes. And
the
also,
like
of
a lot
course,
of
we
the
need
old
fresh
homes.
vegetables. Sorry,
Yes. Yeah.
we
Hmm.
also, of course, need fresh vegetables, and in this respect, I keep a vegetable garden. But the vegetable garden is about 20. It's intensive farming, so it's a lot of vegetables, about half a ton a year in my case for one person, growing on 140 square meters, so 12 by 12 meters. And so that's
Hmm.
150 out of the 750, and the rest 600 square meters is taken by the seeds, the cereals and the beans and the olive trees that are in between.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing as well when I found out about you and your work. It's not sort of like a lot of time out of your year. Is that like you've also written about that in your research, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But um, yeah, it's interesting that. Did you say it's like a day a week or a day a month? Some one with your farm. What's the hours you put in?
It's yeah, it's one day a month on average, one working day. So between 8 to 10 hours a month. They don't spread very evenly because sometimes in the year are more labor intensive and the others are more relaxed. So, for example, now
Hmm.
there's nothing to be done in December and January, and then my next planting would be only early February. Um, yeah, I can maybe break down the annual working hours. It's quite simple. So in the garden, I want a constant supply of fresh produce from the garden. So I plant every month in order to be able to pick uh, and harvest crops all year round. So that happens 8 months a week. Sorry, 8 months a year, 8 times a year. There are 4 months that
Hmm.
I don't plant in the veg garden because it's too hot or too cold. So I plant winter crops from September, October, November, then December, January, nothing, and then February I do the last planting of the winter, and then March, April, May, and June are summer planting, summer crops, summer vegetables
Hmm.
planting, and then July, August, nothing. So that's and each time, so that happens once a month, and it takes about half a day, so about 4 or 5 hours to prepare one stripe of like one quarter section of the garden. So one quarter, and then the next one another quarter, another quarter, another quarter of the garden, and then I go back
Hmm.
and replant. So it's each and every part of the year. All the garden is being planted with plants in several various ages. So the older plants that I eat from, and then the younger plants that are waiting to be uh, ready for harvesting. So that's vegetables. That takes about 4 days a year, right? It's a half a day for 8 times a year. Each and every time of the year, I will have all the garden being planted with all the garden is being so there's no like empty rows or empty beds. It's always full with
Hmm.
something at different
Yeah.
stages and different ages. So the more mature plants will be providing the food, and the others will be still growing, and it goes in a
Yeah.
circle. So that's um, altogether, each time I do it, each month, it's about half a day, so 4 or 5 hours to prepare a section of the garden of about 35 square meters, so a quarter of the garden. And then, so it goes 8 months a year. So altogether, 4 days a year, 4 working days, 4 full working days. So that's
Mm.
the veg gardens. It's funny, it takes about nearly half the time of working and of the annual labor load, and it gives you
Yeah.
only 15% of your calorie intake.
Yeah.
But it's worthwhile because it's all the vitamins and the minerals
Yeah.
and the fun and the volume. You
Yeah.
know, each day I eat about, I like every person, we all eat about 2 kilograms of food a day. That's the average for
Hmm.
a person. In this
Hmm.
case, 3 quarters of it, 1.5 kilograms, in my case, are vegetables. And then only half a kilograms is all the other, the wheat and the beans and the oil. But they
Hmm.
give me 85% of the calories, although they are
Yeah.
only 1 quarter of the weight. So vegetables are very important in terms of volume and fun and
Yeah. Yeah.
colorful and variety. You know, it's varied. I
Yes.
grow about 40 types of vegetables year round, 25 in the winter, 15 in the summer, only seasonal.
Mhm.
So that's a lot of variety to play with and to, have
Yeah.
and enjoy
Gastronomical.
eating. Yeah, enjoy your food.
Yeah. That's good.
And then the rest of the time is for the seeds, like the
Hmm.
grain, to grow. So it takes about 2 days, so half a day to plant, to scatter the seeds and prepare the soil, and then one, 2 more days to harvest everything, and that's
Mm.
concentrated. It all happens in June,
Yeah.
and then about 1.5 more days to thrash.
Mm.
So thrashing and winnowing and all that with a special machine that I use for it, a small
Hmm.
scale machine.
Hmm.
So that's another 4 days. And then 2 more days for the olive tree. So one day harvesting and then one day pruning after the harvest. Harvesting and pressing is the same day. I press in an oil press, not on site. I
Yeah.
go to the next village, to the nearby
Yeah.
village.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then say about 2 more days of, miscellanea, all types of, unforeseen and unexpected work that you need to do. Some hoses being needs to be fixed, etc. So that's 12 days a year, 12 working days a
Amazing.
year, and that's
Amazing.
1 day on average. Yeah, but
Hmm.
it took me a while to get to this stage. It didn't start this way.
Yeah.
It took me longer, and I made more mistake that I needed to fix, and
Yeah.
everything took longer. So after a decade, more than a decade, it takes
Yeah.
as little as this. You
As
learn
that.
how to save work and then how not to do what's not absolutely
Mm.
necessary to be done.
Mm.
So it takes a
Yeah.
while. So
Very,
I guess if
very
you
good
start this
consideration.
project, some type of this project, you should
Mm.
expect about twice the time invested in this
Yeah.
type of setting, and then over
Hmm.
time it will be less and less.
Yeah. Yeah. The garden, it's an investment. It's a good investment. Moving away from the other types of investments that are put to us. um, so with all of that, like it's interesting. This is sort of tied to I've read some of your research papers, and coming from also a sort of place where I'm a philosopher as well, you could say, and done sort of research in institutions before. Like in Australia, our university is system is quite corporate, you could say. Like I don't hear of research agendas like yours, and it will be really interesting for you to share the Israeli Institute of Technology. Yeah, how did you get to this point of this research agenda and really, in my view, critical papers and research that's being and praxis that's being shared with the community in a very important issue for, I think, the future. It's great to see. So if you were able to share a bit about that kind of side of things and how it works, it will be really interesting.
Well, as I said, I'm a philosopher. I'm not a scientist,
Mm.
and most of my research has had to do with philosophy, so it had
Yeah.
nothing to do with this. Um, and then, but I did publish a book about, um, just like a philosophy book, but non-academic for the general public, about three
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and it also it was about um, the art of living, I would say, and so kind of old style type of philosophy, and I also shared some of the experience of living here on this mini farm, and it made an impact. It was written in Hebrew, and currently it's being translated into English. So right now it's only in Hebrew for the local readership. And then some scientists heard about it, and they said, "Wow, that's interesting. We want to uh, get some details and some data from you because it's very hard to get data from self-sufficient farms in industrial countries. I mean, that's very
Mm.
uncommon. I wasn't aware of it. And I said, yeah, I'm happy to share all my data because I did keep logs and I had a lot of data just for myself, being sort of a geeky person. And then we started writing, and we gathered a nice bunch of researchers from all around the world, like from Holland, life cycle assessment expert, and another environmentalist from New York, Bard College, and several researchers, scientists from around here. And we just embarked on this project, and we were very surprised by many of the results that we got. So I'm very happy for this initiative. It wasn't initiated by me, it was initiated by scientists who approached me, and I collaborated.
Yeah.
Um, I also wrote the research eventually because I do have some scientific background. One of my expertise is philosophy of science, so I
Mm.
am I have some. I'm partly knowledgeable about scientific issues, and I can do such writing. So I wrote the research, and it was fascinating. I'm very happy, and it it seems as though we are going to have several, like a follow up on this research, because there are things to be more things to be researched. For
Yeah.
example, the economic part, we haven't touched upon it at all. We
Mm.
all the economic aspect of such an endeavor wasn't explored yet. So we
Mm.
mainly
Yeah.
focused on the nutritional aspect and
Mm.
the environmental aspect, which is a
Yeah.
lot.
Really interested in foundational economics and
Mm.
what the that school of economics is. It's coming out of a Welsh university, and they're talking about food, like these everyday essentials, and kind of claiming them back in everyday life, and the economics, the local economics connected to how it nourishes the community. And it's also interesting because okios, the Greek,
Yeah.
it's yeah, meaning of economics is managing the household. So you
Yes.
really are doing. economics. Like you're claiming back something that has been taken from the people back to this more human place where it belongs, like where it began. So yeah, economic writings. Really interested to stay in tune with your work,
Yes.
and
You
yeah.
know, just as an anecdotal, non-research oriented, but just thinking about it in a very simple terms, in very simple terms, we, if you think about it, I guess it's true for other countries as well. But in this place, we can easily see that people work on average um, about 10% of the time to buy food. So
Mm.
that's about 10% of your income is spent on food. And
Mm-hmm.
if you think of full-time job, that would be about uh, 2 days a month, right? So 10% out of 22 days, so more than 2 days a month. And if I work only
Okay.
1 day a month, so that's half the time. So, without going into the details,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's it's uh, it sounds like it's not um, less economical than buying your food, doing this, in
Mm.
terms of the work invested in order to gain the money
Mm.
to buy the food. Of course, it's very anecdotal because I do have to invest money as well. I buy some of buy some of the
Mm.
infrastructure, and I buy the
Mm.
seedlings, and I buy the petrol to go into the small scale machines that I'm using. So it's not
Yeah.
clean, but
Yeah.
it's just a initial thought about
Yeah.
the economic side.
And and also on that local economics is the in Australia and particularly in Tasmania, there's a lot of really interesting community groups, like something we call a crop swap. So where growers, household growers that have surplus, they go to, usually it's someone else's house. There's several around this area, and they swap that produce out
Hmm.
for different types of um, different diversity. And then it's also social interaction, so that kind of community well-being part of it. And yeah, it's also interesting, like seed libraries as well are popping up everywhere. So where people
Yeah.
sharing their seeds, and actually we at Magical Farm we have a seed library, so I host a seed library here.
Hmm.
But chickens, why not chickens? Do they, because they're not just on another, just chickens came in, but why not chickens? Because there's protein with the eggs. They would eat the some of the food scraps. Like, what's your decision there?
No, it's true. It makes a lot of sense to have chickens, and therefore I had them for quite a
Mm.
while, for
Yeah,
several years.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's the problem. I'm for chickens. I think it's very rational because they
Mm.
feed mainly on worms and stuff they found underneath the soil and your
Mm.
kitchen scraps. So
Yeah,
it makes it more efficient because they turn it into more food, stuff that you wouldn't use otherwise. And
yeah.
they enjoy the scenery, and you provide for them, they provide for you. That's excellent. The
Hmm.
problem in this area is that, well, put it in a word, dogs. That's the problem.
Oh, oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
dogs go roam freely in villages around.
yeah. It's
Although legally they should be on a leash, but they're not.
yeah
Um, Nobody keeps
difficult.
their dog on a leash outside the city.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and in therefore you can't have your chickens free range. You have to
yeah.
cage them in a chicken coop,
Mm.
and then it makes the whole thing so they don't no longer feed themselves. You have to buy them food or to grow food for them, and it
Yeah.
all goes pear-shaped. So I
So
decided
yeah, in
against.
mainland Australia, foxes. Okay.
Foxes.
So
Yeah.
your dog is the fox. And
Yeah.
when I lived in mainland Australia, it was a nightmare. And also I love chickens. Chickens are like a sacred animal to me. I just think that they're beautiful. But so it was very traumatic when my chickens were taken by foxes several occasions. And even though we had it all locked up, the foxes are very cunning and they get to the chickens. In Tasmania, there's no foxes. And
Right.
it really is chicken heaven in Tasmania. So there's
Okay.
like you've got eagles and hawks, but really like the chooks here do very well. So it's very much like a signature thing for Tasmania. We have many chickens, and it's quite a culture to have a chook and roost. We actually have problems with roosters.
Mm.
Roosters are put because there's too many chook chickens because they're coming about easily and then not getting eaten by dogs or foxes. So people leave roosters on the side as a sort of societal issue to have. I kind of see it as being quite low on the level of issues that people
Yeah.
put their roosters on the side of the highway. And
Wow.
so then there's roosters, like just wild roosters, and then it's a problem for the local municipality to deal with, and then but it's kind of cute as well. I think some people don't think it's so nice, but
Mm.
roosters on the side of the highway, it's kind of a bit animated farmland place we have.
Maybe on this note, just to say that, I guess um, the protein, I mean, I'm for chickens, as I said, and I think
Yeah,
it's a great thing. But
yeah,
maybe one thing that we tend to overestimate is the protein contribution of eggs, because we need
yeah.
about, some people say 100 grams of protein a day, some people say 60, 70, but something, let's say about 70, and an egg will give you 7 grams of protein. So that's
Oh, okay.
a very little contribution. It's not as
Yeah.
somebody told me, I never checked it, but if you have an egg sandwich, you'll have more protein coming from the bread than from the egg.
Oh, okay. There
But
you go.
I've never checked it, so look it
Yeah.
up.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, no, that's something good to research. Yeah, so I think really, yeah, it's amazing, just conversation, and I think that there's so much more we could talk about, but I'm wanting to sort of keep the podcast sort of short and sharp, and then
Mm.
it's an introduction to you and your amazing, beautiful work, and I will like provide some links at the bottom of the page with all of your. I'm really interested in your book in Hebrew, that's going to turn into an English translation,
Yes,
you say? Good.
yes.
And also the research papers, which I've already got hold of, and also the video of that went viral with the 600,000 views of your farm. It's just a really beautiful visual, inspirational video to share with people. And I just have one more question because it's going to be part of what I do, but maybe I do it at the beginning or at the end if I forget or not. But what's your favorite herb? Because this magical farm is a herb farm and we do
Mm.
culinary and medicinal herbs. So what is your favorite herb and why?
Wow, I'm glad to hear this about your farm, because I admire herbs, and I don't know, I feel it just makes life so much better. It's
Yeah,
so much fun, herbs in terms
yeah,
of, yeah, taste, but also medicinal and everything. It's just
yeah,
we talked about
yeah,
magical plants, so this is a real magical plant,
yeah, yeah.
type of magical plants. In my case, I don't know. I'm afraid to disappoint. Because it's very conventional. I like,
Mm.
so the winter herb, for me, the king of the herbs is the rocket.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yeah, that's I like those little the stuff that bites your tongue. So all
yeah,
sorts of mustardy
yeah,
leaves, and in
yeah,
the summer that would be basil. Well, there's
yeah.
hardly
Oh,
here hardly any herbs in the summer. So basil is the king of the summer.
Yeah,
So pestos and all that, and
yeah.
yeah, but I like them all. I like mint, and I like what do you call them now? I'm not sure I know all the names of the various
Sage,
herbs, but
oregano,
yeah,
the
lavender is great.
Mediterranean.
Yeah, lemongrass,
Mm,
brilliant. Yeah, I like them all.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, they bring lots of zest and yeah,
Yeah.
and joy, don't they? So great. Okay, well, thank you very much, Alec, for everything. And maybe one day we spoke last week, but maybe one day it'd be just to put it out there that you come to Australia, come to Tasmania. It'd be
Yes,
wonderful
I'm
to host you here.
very much looking forward to it, and I'm sure it will
Okay, good.
happen at a certain stage.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll plan for that. Thank you so much. Have a
Thanks
lovely
for having me.
Sunday. Okay, ta-da. Thank you.
Ta-da. Ciao. Bye bye.
Bye.